In 1993, a homeless man living on the streets near downtown Los Angeles experiences a time slip that turns out to have a profound effect on his life. In today's episode, we will look into the story of Robert Daniels. In the late spring of 1993, a 37-year-old homeless man by the name of Robert Daniels experienced a paranormal event that turned out to have a tremendously profound effect on his life. The following is a first-hand account of Robert's story.
My name is Robert. I am a 37-year-old homeless man living on the streets of Skid Row near the Arts District of Los Angeles. At 37, I may still be a young man, but looking at me, you would think I was closer to 60. My hair is prematurely gray, and my skin is weathered and wrinkled from years of drug and alcohol abuse and from the rigors of living on the streets for the last 7 years. This, however, was not always the case. I was once a promising young executive working for a prominent advertising firm, had just bought a new townhouse on the west side, and was engaged to be married to the girl of my dreams. This was 10 years ago. In some ways, it seems like just yesterday. In others, it seems more like a lifetime ago. It was my 27th birthday, and I had much to celebrate. I was heading an ad campaign for a new client, which launched earlier in the week, and by all indications was a huge success. Escrow had closed on my new townhouse, not exactly new, but new to me, and I was set to move in next week. Tanya, my fiancée, had the next 2 weeks off for spring break. This worked out perfectly because she was eager to start moving our belongings from our apartment to the new townhouse. Tanya was working on her PhD in psychology at UCLA and still had 2 semesters left before graduating. Tanya had arranged a surprise birthday party for me. She pretended to forget that it was my birthday and told me that we had to attend her friend's art show at a loft in the Arts District. My friend Phil accidentally let the cat out of the bag one day while we were at lunch. He told me to tell Tanya he couldn't make it to the party because he had to go out of town on business. Apparently, he didn't know it was supposed to be a surprise party. He felt really bad about it, but I told him not to worry. I already suspected something was up when Tanya never mentioned anything about my birthday. She wasn't the type of person to forget those kinds of things. I assured Phil that I would act totally surprised when the time came. On the night of my 27th birthday, both Tanya and I were running late because most of our clothes had already been packed in boxes in preparation for the move. Tanya seemed a bit frantic, saying we had to be there by 7:30. Playing the part of the ignorant boyfriend, I asked Tanya, why do we have to be there by 7:30? All she said was, hurry up and get ready. By 7:15, we were dressed and in the car. Luckily, traffic was light that evening, and it took us about 15 minutes to drive from the west side to the Arts District. Apparently, there was some type of event going on in Little Tokyo, which resulted in congested traffic and made it nearly impossible to find parking in the adjacent Arts District. All the parking structures were full, and there wasn't a single parking spot available on the street. I could see that Tanya was getting anxious as we kept driving around the block. I told her that I could drop her off, and I would find parking a little farther south and walk back to the Arts District to meet her. She insisted on staying with me, saying it was a little rough down that way and that I would need her protection. We both chuckled a bit as we proceeded to drive south of the Arts District. This actually was a pretty rough part of town made up of mostly old warehouses. There were plenty of homeless camps in the area as well. We finally found a parking spot near an old rundown building next to a liquor store. I felt fairly safe parking there because there were plenty of nice cars parked around us. They were all doing the same as us, parking in this area and walking back to Little Tokyo or to the Arts District. As soon as we got out of the car, we were struck by the overpowering smell of urine. We were half a block away from a homeless encampment, and there were a few intimidating people in the area. It began to rain a bit, so I looked in the back seat, and luckily my niece left her Dora the Explorer umbrella from the last time I drove her to school. We both shared the space under it as we walked north towards the Arts District. As we walked past the liquor store, a homeless man standing on the sidewalk was staring directly at us. I was thinking of stopping to give the man a couple of bucks, but Tanya pulled my arm to keep me walking. She said, "Normally I would stop and help someone in need, but there's something about that man that's making me feel very uneasy. Besides, we're already late." We picked up our pace a bit as I glanced behind us. The man by the liquor store was walking towards us. When he saw me look back, I heard him yell something. His pace quickened, so we started walking faster. He began yelling louder and began running. I told Tanya to run, and as we headed down the street, I looked back again, and the man was still chasing us. I yelled at Tanya to make a turn down the next alley because I knew it led to a much busier street. We would be much safer around other people. Halfway down the alley, Tanya tripped and fell to her knees. I stopped to help her back up, and as I looked back, the man had turned the corner and was at the mouth of the alley. We made a sprint towards the end of the alley, but Tanya was limping. I told Tanya to keep going and not look back. I gave her a little push to get her going. If she could make it to the end of the alley and out into the street, she would be safe. I picked up a bottle from the ground and turned to confront the man. As I did so, I heard the sickening sound of brakes screeching, followed by a dull thud. As I looked up the alley, I could only see the side of a red sedan stopped on the street at the end of the alley. I screamed out Tanya's name, and a moment later I heard my own voice echo strangely in the alley. I dropped the bottle and ran to the end of the alley. There, lying on the pavement, was Tanya. I quickly ran to her and cradled her in my arms, but it was no use. Tanya was gone. That moment marked the turning point in my life. I was never quite the same person after that. I soon turned to alcohol to fill the void left in my life, but that didn't help. I began using drugs, and that seemed to help me forget, but only temporarily. I began missing more and more days of work until eventually they had to let me go. With no source of income, I soon lost my townhouse. Without Tanya to share it with, it didn't seem to matter much anyway. I stayed with friends here and there, but being constantly drunk or high, I soon wore out my welcome. I lived in my car for a time until it was repossessed. The next thing you know, I'm living out on the street. I don't know why I chose this area to live. Perhaps being close to the place where Tanya died seemed fitting. The first few years of living on the street was difficult. In the beginning, I tried to maintain some sense of self-dignity. I regularly bathed at the Union Rescue Mission, washed my clothes once a week at the laundromat, and tried to stay at a motel whenever I could. After a while, though, it just seemed easier to let myself go. There is a sort of freedom that comes when you're no longer concerned with cleanliness or personal hygiene. The only thing that concerned me was getting high. I applied for disability a couple of years ago, and each month the government sends me a check. The checks are mailed to the liquor store where the owner is kind enough to receive the checks and cash them for me as well, for a fee, of course. Between the disability checks and occasionally panhandling, I have enough to keep myself drunk or high most of the time. Yesterday was my 37th birthday, exactly 10 years to the day that my life changed forever. And somehow I relived the worst day of my life. Not just metaphorically, but actually relived it. When I woke up, I knew it was the 10th anniversary of that tragic day. I will never be able to forget it, because it will always fall on my birthday. On this particular birthday, I wanted so hard to forget, so I started drinking from the moment I awoke. I drank all morning until around noon, when I fell asleep on a bus bench. I slept all day until I was awakened by light rainfall. This is just perfect, I thought to myself. What an appropriate way to cap off my birthday. I picked up my bottle of vodka to take a swig when I saw the bottle was empty. Damn, I really need a drink. I started walking to the liquor store when I noticed a girl who looked exactly like Tanya. Wait a minute, that is Tanya. and she's walking with me. 27-year-old me. The couple was walking under an umbrella down the street right past me. I was in shock. All I could do was stare at them. I don't know how, but somehow it was 10 years ago. I was witnessing events from my 27th birthday. This was my chance. If I could alter the course of events over the next few minutes, maybe I could get a second chance at the life that was taken away from me. I called out to them, but they started walking away faster. I didn't have much time. I started running and yelling out for them to come back. When they saw me running, they started to run. I kept desperately trying to call them back when they turned into that alley. Oh no, I thought. It's happening all over again. I ran down to the entrance to the alley and stopped. I didn't want them to see me running after them, but it was too late. I heard that sickening sound of brakes screeching and that awful dull thud. I yelled out Tanya's name, but I already knew what had happened. The next thing I knew, I woke up on the bus bench. It was the morning after my 37th birthday. Was that all a bad dream? It seemed so real. I rubbed the sleep out of my eyes, and as I looked down at the bench I was sleeping on, lying next to an empty bottle of vodka, was a Dora the Explorer umbrella. A bizarre coincidence? What is also odd is that this is the first time in many years that I don't have the urge to drink or get high. None at all. In fact, I have decided that I'm going to clean myself up, buy some fresh clothes, and get a haircut. I know the mission has some resources to help find jobs for people willing to work. Maybe I am getting a second chance after all.
Did Robert Daniels really travel back in time and relive the events of 10 years in the past? Or was it all just a drunken dream? In either case, Robert did get his second chance and managed to turn his life around. He now has a job at the rescue mission, working as a counselor, helping others turn their lives around. This concludes today's episode of the Paranormal Report. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. It is due to your continued viewership and support that we are able to bring you interesting and informative videos like this. The team here at the Paranormal Report really appreciates your support.